Now, this year I'm gonna do something a little bit differently than I normally do. I'm going to grow single stem tomato plants. What's up, world? Welcome back to the Big City Gardener YouTube channel. You already know who this is, man. I'm Big City Gardener. It's tomato time. If you remember the recent video that I just put out where we repotted tomatoes, videos up here, these are those same tomatoes a little bit over 2 weeks, I think 16 days later, all right? So you can see they put on some serious height, some serious girth, and they're ready to go into the ground. So that's what we're here to do today. We're going to be planting these tomatoes, and I'm gonna give you some tomato planting tips to help make sure that you have the best tomato harvest that you've ever had. Now, one of the reasons why I'm doing single stem tomato plants is because, one, I just want to see how much fruit I can actually produce off of them. And two, single stem tomato plants take up a lot less space than fully grown out tomatoes. If I allow it to bush out, well, then you need cages and all sorts of things that take up a lot of space. So rather than grow one big plant, I'm gonna fill the garden up with as many tomatoes as possible. There's a few different things you need to know when it comes to growing tomatoes. First, you need to know the difference between a determinate and an indeterminate tomato. A determinate tomato, we can call it a bush tomato. It is a tomato where it grows to a certain height, a certain size, and then it just stops. What it now does is it switches all its energy over and begins to produce the fruit. Now, the second type of tomatoes, those are indeterminate tomatoes. Indeterminate tomatoes are also called vining tomatoes. Now, these are tomatoes that will live and thrive and continue to fruit as long as it doesn't encounter any freezing cold temperatures. These indeterminate vining types are the ones that we use to grow single stem tomatoes. I have a planting area up against the fence in between two of my muscadines. So this year I'm gonna use this space to grow 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 single vine tomatoes. And the raised beds that we have over here, I'll put probably 6 more single stem tomatoes in. Now, a single stem tomato only needs 1 square foot, 12 inches by 12 inches worth of space. Compare that to a tomato that is not a single stem, a tomato that we just let grow as large as it wants, that could easily take up a 2 by 2 space. Now, while that doesn't sound like a lot, you have to think, how big is my garden and how much space am I willing to devote to one plant? With this single stem method, we're able to get multiple varieties of tomatoes in the same area that we would normally only get one in. So this year, we're sticking with the tried and trues. We're growing brandywines. This is a San Marzano. I got a couple aromas right here. I have 3 tomatoes that I didn't actually start, but I'm still growing them anyway. One of them is a Super 100 cherry tomato. The second one is a yellow pear cherry style tomato. And the third one is another indeterminate. It is a variety called Mr. Stripey. All right, that's enough talking for now. Let's get to planting. We're gonna plant tomatoes. We're gonna follow the same tips that you probably heard a million times. I do most of the same things that everybody else does. I remove all of the leaves. You can use your fingers, you can use pruners. Just pop them off. And then I plant the tomato as deep as possible. And that's just because tomatoes can form roots off of this main stem. So the deeper you plant it, the bigger the root mass you can get. But you can also just plant it this deep and you'll still end up with an amazing tomato plant. All right, so like, man, do what you want, all right? Do what you want. Anyway, since we're doing the single stem, we're gonna space things about 1 foot apart. This is about 1 foot, so this will go around here. We'll do the same for this yellow pear. It's about 1 foot. This one could go here. And honestly, I should put 1 more in the middle. So now we're gonna actually plant the tomato. See the brandywine we already had here. I pinched off the first set of flowers because I want this thing to grow a little bit taller and not start to set fruit till it gets around here. That's just a personal preference. I'll do that to any of the tomatoes that I plant if I see that they have flowers. All right, now we dig a hole. You're gonna hear people give you all sorts of tips. Some people will say put cottonseed meal at the bottom of the hole. Some people will say put oyster shells. Some people say put fish heads and all sorts of things. Look, man, tomatoes are heavy feeders. Any organic granular fertilizer that you have or amendment, throw it in the hole. That's it. And then plant your tomato as deeply as possible. Okay? If you want to plant it deeper, instead of going straight down, turn the tomato sideways. Grab a handful of the fertilizer, throw it down in the hole. Then just cover it all back up, man. Prune any leaves that are touching the soil.